So let's jump into the thing. All right. So there it is. Biden and walking in slowly. It's what they the usual shit, honestly. Nothing much, but I'll
Anna Palmer, Jeremy Bash, I want to thank you.
turn
I
on
want to thank
the volume.
all of our panelists, all of our guests and reporters who have been with us. Our special coverage continues right now.
Yeah.
An NBC News special
You,
report.
I tell you, you didn't miss a fucking thing. They just ponderously
to office facing
walk in
massive
and they
challenges
shake
at home and
everyone's
abroad.
hands.
On the domestic front,
Ugh.
record inflation
I'm just
causing
gonna mute
prices.
this. Yeah, they come in, they shake everyone's hands. Everyone jockeys for position. I'm not sure if you all know this, but like the positioning here, people come in. There's like, I know there's like one congresswoman who makes sure she's like in the same spot every time and to always shake the president's hand. Though I don't know if she did the same for Trump. It was a black woman, and a Democrat. Which of course but yeah, I'm not sure if she did the same for Trump, but she like always does it, and I think she's always wearing red too, so the camera can catch her doing it. So right, it's like year after year after year, there's one woman just shaking a president's hand. So I'm sure she got in position. If she's still in Congress, I'm sure she was there too. It's like a whole thing. Yeah, it's not even a spotlight. Sheila Jackson Lee. Okay, thank you, Gritterson. Yeah, Sheila Jackson Lee. It's more like in the seating, right? There's, I think she's usually near the door. Yeah, I think she's closer to the door. So when they're walking out and walking in, she can shake their hands. But I'll see it, obviously. What else? There's the whole thing about clapping. I'm sure most of the people here have seen a State of the Union or two, right? And they don't like the different like Democrats, Republicans don't have to sit on either side of the aisle, like literally sit on different sides of the aisle, but they like end up usually do. And then when you see the cameras, right, and there's an applause line depending on which president you're talking about, half the room won't clap at all. Like everyone will clap on, oh, may God protect America, and they'll clap for that, right? They'll clap on for the most innocuous things, right? But beyond that, you know, the economy is strong, right? Like saying the economy is strong, they're not going to clap for that because the Republicans, this Democratic president, want to paint it so as the economy is a fucking disaster. How could we have elected such an idiot? It's a whole thing. I still remember I remember that Wick, the "you lie" line to Obama. Yeah, that was really fucked up. Democrats don't do that to Republicans. Did anyone do anything like close like that to Trump? I mean, Trump was a fucking monster. He was a monster, and Democrats didn't do that. Yeah, so I don't know. It's, oh boy, yeah, it's like a mess. I think she has the latest competitive super district in the least competitive district in Texas. Sheila Jackson Lee, really? I'm surprised. She's been there for a while. Hey, little Lux of Legends. Hey, how are you? Hope you're having a good day. Nice to see you again. Yeah, I don't think they did either a Wick in terms of the Democrats like heckling Trump during a State of the Union. I'm almost certain that they did not, but the disrespect shown to Obama, what do you know? You never saw that shit with Bill Clinton. You never saw that with any others. For some reason, felt like doing that. And he raised so much money too, right? He raised a bunch of money from others. There was also, remember the governor, I want to say of Arizona or maybe New Mexico. I can never tell them apart in the same fucking state. But I remember it was a small blonde white lady, right? Who was a Republican. And when Obama came to visit her state, she like came up on the tarmac and like shook her finger in his face, right? And there's a picture of her, like this tiny white lady to this tall black man shaking their finger, letting them know what for, right? And she raised a shitload of money off of that too, right? Yeah, it's kind of disrespect. Okay, whatever. Uh, and then the Republicans bitching and moaning about Democrats calling Trump names like Bunker Boy when he went out and literally hid in a bunker when there was a protest outside. They're protesters, and he hides in a bunker. A little bitch. But the things that they did to Obama, wow. Okay, so they're gonna do the whole thing. Ace Man, monster like Sully from Monsters Inc. What are you talking about? Okay, oh, okay, they're announcing him. Okay, oops, sorry.
Entered the House chamber. We expect this walk to last quite a few minutes, as it often does. He'll greet some of the members of Congress, the assembled guests. We've seen several members of the Supreme Court, the cabinet. And again, no masks in the chamber tonight. Well, masks were optional, and many have chosen not to wear them. So we're starting to see that return to normalcy. We want to bring in NBC's political director and moderator of Meet the Press, Chuck Todd, and our chief Washington correspondent, Andrea Mitchell.
And watching this, it struck me that it feels like we're about to see a wartime speech, but this country is not at war.
Is that? I forget. Honestly, I forget what Shirley Jackson really looks like. I'm not sure if that's her right there. But she usually wears red. If I'm not incorrect. I know which way.
You know, it's interesting.
Was she the one in the blue there? I'm not sure. But whatever.
More people are going to tune into the speech. It's going to be a little less of a partisan audience. You know, the past few states of the union.
Everyone wants their picture taken, you know, with the president as he's walking in. Like a big thing. Like, this is what you fundraise off of, you know? Like, look at me, I'm on the president's side, you know? So, yeah. Did you see Pelosi rip up the paper behind Trump? Oh, yeah, there was that. There was that, yeah. That was at the end of his speech, I mean. Oh, and then there was the clapping. Remember the clapping, right? I guess that was the closest. Yeah, Pelosi rips up the speech. I think it was after he was done. And then there was the clapping. I think it was all the same State of the Union, if I'm remembering correctly. That was her in the gold. Oh, that was her in the gold. Okay, that was her. Okay, yeah. That was all right. Thank you, Gritterson. Thanks for that. That was her in the. She had the gold outfit on. All right, wasn't sure.
Where the president is likely to talk about the forces for democracy versus the forces of a dictator, and said it in quite stark terms.
And he's hoping, as we see the president handing the speech, the text to the vice president, of course, and the Speaker of the House, he's hoping that all the Republican criticism that he did not move quickly enough to arm Ukraine will now be resolved because they have taken decisive action.
Oh, I'm going to raise the volume.
Honor of presenting to you the President of the United States.
Tell me if the volume is good, guys. Let me know.
And Savannah, this could be a rare moment of bipartisanship. He's hoping the kind that he remembers, bipartisanship, politics stopping at the water's edge on foreign policy.
It's very blue and yellow out there already in that crowd. You can see there was a lot of blue and yellow among members.
And they're wearing pins, the Ukrainian flag with the U.S. flag.
Oh, that's why she was wearing gold, because of the Ukraine thing. Okay, fair enough. Sounds good. Great.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, General. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you. Please. Thank you so much. Madam Speaker, Madam Vice President, our First Lady and Second Gentleman, members of Congress and the Cabinet, Justices of the Supreme Court, my fellow Americans. Last year, COVID-19 kept us apart. This year, we're finally together again. Tonight,
hooray.
Tonight, we meet as Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, but most importantly, as Americans, with the duty to one another, to America, to the American people, to the Constitution, and an unwavering resolve that freedom will always triumph over tyranny. Thank you. 6 days ago, Russia's Vladimir Putin sought to shake the very foundations of the free world, thinking he could make it bend to his menacing ways. But he badly miscalculated. He thought he could roll into Ukraine and the world would roll over. Instead, he met with a wall of strength he never anticipated or imagined. He met the Ukrainian people. And President Zelensky, to every Ukrainian, their fearlessness, their courage, their determination literally inspires the world. Groups of citizens blocking tanks with their bodies, everyone from students to retirees to teachers, turned soldiers defending their homeland. And in this struggle, President Zelensky said in his speech to the European Parliament, "Light will win over darkness." The Ukrainian ambassador to the United States is here tonight, sitting with the First Lady. Let each of us, if you're able to stand and send an unmistakable signal to the world of Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
This is a line that everyone's going to stand up for, you know?
She's bright, she's strong, and she's resolved. Yes, we, the United States of America, stand with the Ukrainian people. Throughout our history, we've learned this lesson. When dictators do not pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos. They keep moving, and the cost, the threats to America and America to the world keeps rising. That's why the NATO alliance was created, to secure peace and stability in Europe after World War II. The United States is a member, along with 29 other nations. It matters. American diplomacy matters. American resolve matters. Putin's latest attack on Ukraine was premeditated and totally unprovoked. He rejected repeated efforts at diplomacy. He thought the West and NATO wouldn't respond. He thought he could divide us at home, in this chamber, in this nation. He thought he could divide us in Europe as well. But Putin was wrong. We are ready. We are united, and that's what we did. We stayed united. We prepared extensively and carefully. We spent months building coalitions of other freedom-loving nations in Europe and the Americas, from America to the Asian and African continents, to confront Putin. Like many of you, I spent countless hours unifying our European allies. We shared with the world in advance what we knew Putin was planning and precisely how he would try to falsify and justify his aggression. We countered Russia's lies with the truth. And now that he's acted, the free world is holding him accountable, along with 27 members of the European Union, including France, Germany, Italy, as well as countries like the United Kingdom, Canada, Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, and many others. Even Switzerland are inflicting pain on Russia and supporting the people of Ukraine. Putin is now isolated from the world more than he has ever been. Together, along with our allies, we are right now enforcing powerful economic sanctions. We're cutting off Russia's largest banks from the international financial system, preventing Russia's central bank from defending the Russian ruble, making Putin's $630 billion war fund worthless. We're choking Russia's access. To technology that will sap its economic strength and weaken its military for years to come. Tonight, I say to the Russian oligarchs and the corrupt leaders who built billions of dollars off this violent regime, no more. The United States.
How much you want to bet, like, will that slip up on the word ruble? That, like, Fox News makes it like, oh, look at him. Biden's falling apart. He screwed up a word.
Department of Justice is assembling a dedicated task force to go after the crimes of the Russian oligarchs. We're joining with European allies to find and seize their yachts, their luxury apartments, their private jets. We're coming for your ill-begotten gains. And tonight, I'm announcing that we will join our allies in closing off American airspace to all Russian flights, further isolating Russia and adding additional squeeze on their economy.
All Russian flights. I mean, should we? Like,
he has no idea
I don't know.
What's coming.
Who's got that going to hurt?
Has already lost 30% of its value. The Russian stock market has lost 40% of its value, and trading remains suspended. The Russian economy is reeling, and Putin alone is the one to blame. Together with our allies, we're providing support to the Ukrainians in their fight for freedom. Military assistance, economic assistance, humanitarian assistance. We're giving more than $1 billion of direct assistance to Ukraine, and will continue to aid the Ukrainian people as they defend their country and help ease their suffering. But let me be clear. Our forces are not engaged and will not engage in the conflict with Russian forces in Ukraine. Our forces are not going to Europe to fight Ukraine, but to defend our NATO allies in the event that Putin decides to keep moving west. For that purpose, we have mobilized American ground forces, air squadrons, ship deployments to protect NATO countries including Poland, Romania, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. And as I've made crystal clear, the United States and our allies will defend every inch of territory that is NATO territory with the full force of our collective power. Every single inch.
Which means Ukraine is out of luck there, right?
And we're clear-eyed. The Ukrainians are fighting back with pure courage. But the next few days, weeks, and months will be hard on them. Putin has unleashed violence and chaos. But while he may make gains on the battlefield, he'll pay a continuing high price over the long run. And a pound of Ukrainian people, the proud, proud people, pound for pound, ready to fight with every inch of energy they have. They've known 30 years of independence, have repeatedly shown that they will not tolerate anyone who tries to take their country backwards. To all Americans, I'll be honest with you, as I always promised I would be. A Russian dictator invading a foreign country has cost around the world. And I'm taking robust action to make sure the pain of our sanctions is targeted at the Russian economy, and that we use every tool at our disposal to protect American businesses and consumers. Tonight, I can announce the United States has worked with 30 other countries to release 60 million barrels of oil from reserves around the world. America will lead that effort, releasing 30 million barrels of our own strategic petroleum reserve. And we stand ready to do more if necessary, united with our allies. These steps will help blunt gas prices here at home, but I know news about what's happening can seem alarming to all Americans. But I want you to know, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. When the history of this era is written, Putin's war in Ukraine will have left Russia weaker and the rest of the world stronger. While it shouldn't have taken,
I'm curious if Republicans are all standing for
so terrible for people around the world to see
anti-Putin talk.
What's at stake. Now everyone sees it clearly. We see the unity among leaders of nations, a more unified Europe, a more unified West. We see unity among the people who are gathering in cities and large crowds around the world, even in Russia, to demonstrate their support for the people of Ukraine. In the battle between democracy and autocracies, democracies are rising to the moment. and the world is clearly choosing the side of peace and security. This is the real test, and it's going to take time. So let us continue to draw inspiration from the iron will of the Ukrainian people. To our fellow Ukrainian Americans who forged the deep bond that connects our two nations, we stand with you. We stand with you. Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people. He'll never extinguish their love of freedom, and he will never weaken the resolve of the free world. We meet tonight in an America that has lived through two of the hardest years this nation has ever faced. The pandemic has been punishing, and so many families are living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to keep up with the rising cost of food, gas, housing, and so much more. I understand, like many of you did. My dad had to leave his home in Scranton, Pennsylvania to find work. So like many of you, I grew up in a family when the price of food went up.
I got to remind you, I'm from Scranton, Pennsylvania. At least my family is.
That's one of the first things I did as president was fight to pass the American Rescue Plan. Because people were hurting. We needed to act, and we did. Few pieces of legislation have done more at a critical moment in our history to lift us out of a crisis. It fueled our efforts to vaccinate the nation and combat COVID-19. Delivered immediate economic relief to tens of millions of Americans. It helped put food on the table. Remember those long lines of cars waiting for hours just to get a box of food put in their trunk. It cut the cost of health care insurance. And as my dad used to say, it gave the people just a little bit of breathing room. Unlike the $2 trillion tax cut passed in the previous administration that benefited the top 1% of Americans, the American Rescue Plan
no clapping.
Helped working people and left no one behind.
Oh, okay, now we'll clap. So the Republicans booed the American Rescue Plan, and then they booed the fact that the $2 trillion tax cut that Trump did.
We created jobs, lots of jobs. In fact, our economy created over 6.5 million new jobs just last year. More jobs in 1 year than ever before in the history of the United States of America. The economy grew at a rate of 5.7 last year, the strongest growth rate in 40 years. And the first step in bringing fundamental change to our economy that hasn't worked for working people in this nation for too long. For the past 40 years, we were told that tax break for those at the top and benefits would trickle down and everyone would benefit. But that trickle-down theory led to a weaker economic growth, lower wages, bigger deficits, and a widening gap between the top and everyone else in nearly a century. Look, Vice President Harris and I ran for office, and I realize we have fundamental disagreements on this, but ran for office with a new economic vision for America. Invest in America, educate Americans, grow the workforce, build the economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down, because we know when the middle class grows, the poor have a way up and the wealthy do very well. America used to have the best roads, bridges, and airports on earth. And now our infrastructure is ranked 13th in the world. We won't be able to compete for the jobs of the 21st century if we don't fix it. That's why it was so important to pass the bipartisan infrastructure law. And I thank my Republican friends who joined.
After they cut that infrastructure bill, after they cut, it could have been much bigger.
In history. It was a bipartisan effort, and I want to thank the members of both parties who worked to make it happen. We're done talking about infrastructure weeks. We're now talking about an infrastructure decade.
Yeah. And I'm glad, passed, but the problem is it privatizes a bunch of stuff too. Like, that's a mixed bag.
It's going to transform America to put us on a path to win the economic competition of the 21st century that we face with the rest of the world, particularly China. I've told Xi Jinping it's never been a good bet to bet against the American people. We'll create good jobs for millions of Americans, modernizing roads, airports, ports, waterways, all across America.
Did he actually say that?
And we'll do it to withstand the devastating effects of climate change and promote environmental justice.
Why would you say it's another world leader?
We'll build a national network of 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations.
That would be great.
Begin to replace the poisonous lead pipes so every child, every American has clean water to drink at home and at school.
Can we clap for that? Republicans can't clap for kids having clean water. All right.
Provide affordable, high-speed internet for every American, rural, suburban, urban, and tribal communities. 4,000 projects have already been announced. Many of you have announced them in your districts. And tonight, I'm announcing that this year, we will start fixing over 65,000 miles of highway and 1,500 bridges in disrepair. And folks,
Republicans can't be happy for people with jobs.
When we use taxpayers' dollars to rebuild America, we're going to do it by buying America. Buy American products. Support American jobs. The federal government spends about $600 billion a year to keep this country safe and secure. There's been a law on the books for almost a century to make sure taxpayers' dollars support American jobs and businesses. Every administration, Democrat and Republican, says they'll do it, but we're actually doing it. We'll buy America to make sure everything from the deck of an aircraft carrier to the steel on highway guardrails is made in America from beginning to end. All of it. All of it. But folks, to compete for the jobs of the future, we also need a level playing field with China and other competitors. That's why it's so important to pass the Bipartisan Innovation Act sitting in Congress that will make record investments in emerging technologies and American manufacturing. We used to invest almost 2% of our GDP in research and development.
What bill is that?
We don't now. China is. Let me give you one example why it's so important to pass. If you travel 20 miles east of Columbus, Ohio, you'll find 1,000 empty acres of land. It won't look like much, but if you stop and look closely, you'll see a field of dreams, the ground on which America's future will be built. That's where Intel, the American company that helped build Silicon Valley, is going to build a $20 billion semiconductor megasite, up to 8 state-of-the-art factories in one place. 10,000 new jobs.
We could definitely use that.
In those factories, the average job about $135,000 a year. Some of the most sophisticated manufacturing in the world to make computer chips the size of a fingertip, that power the world in everyday lives, from smartphones, technology, the internet, technology.
We could absolutely use this. I hope that gets built.
That's just the beginning. Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger, who is here tonight. I don't know where Pat is. Pat, there you go. Pat, stand up.
Yes, please, let's make some semiconductors here. Please, semiconductor manufacturer.
Pat,
you need to do that here, not in other places.
Pat came to see me, and he told me they're ready to increase their investment from $20 billion to $100 billion. That would be the biggest investment in manufacturing in American history. And all they're waiting for is for you to pass this bill.
Pass the bill.
So let's not wait any longer. Send it to my desk. I'll sign it. And we'll really take off in a big way.
But maybe President Joe Manchin will say no, right?
And folks,
maybe President Joe Manchin will say, we can't afford it.
Intel is not alone. There's something happening in America. Just look around and you'll see an amazing story. the rebirth of pride that comes from stamping products made in America, the revitalization of American manufacturing. Companies are choosing to build new factories here when just a few years ago they would have gone overseas. That's what's happening. Ford is investing $11 billion in electric vehicles, creating 11,000 jobs across the country. GM is making the largest investment in its history, $7 billion to build electric vehicles, creating 4,000 jobs in Michigan. All told, 369,000 new manufacturing jobs were created in America last year alone. Folks,
that kid's cute. I don't know who he is, but he's pretty cute.
Powered by people I've met like JoJo Burgess from generations of union steelworkers.
Is that a Joestar reference?
Who's here tonight? Where are you, JoJo? There you go. Thanks, buddy. As Ohio...
A Joestar is here.
As Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown says... As Sherrod Brown says, it's time to bury the label Rust Belt. It's time to see the what used to be called the Rust Belt become the home of a significant resurgence of manufacturing. And with all the bright spots,
I feel like he was going to use a name here, but he forgot what the name was.
Growth,
he skipped over it.
Too many families are struggling to keep up with their bills. Inflation is robbing them of
like the
gains
technology
they
belt
thought otherwise they would be able to feel. I get it. That's why my top priority is getting prices under control. Look, our economy roared back faster than almost anyone predicted, but the pandemic meant that businesses had a hard time hiring enough people because of the pandemic to keep up production in their factories. So you didn't have people making those beams that went into buildings because they were out. The factory was closed. The panic also disrupted the global supply chain. Factories close. When that happens, it takes longer to make goods and get them to the warehouses, to the stores, and prices go up. Look at cars last year. 1/3 of all the inflation was because of automobile sales. There weren't enough semiconductors to make all the cars that people wanted to buy. And guess what? Prices of automobiles went way up, especially used vehicles as well. And so we have a choice. One way to fight inflation is to drive down wages and make Americans poorer. I think I have a better idea to fight inflation. Lower your costs, not your wages. And folks, that means make more cars and semiconductors in America, more infrastructure and innovation in America, more goods moving faster and cheaper in America, more jobs where you can earn a good living in America. Instead of relying on foreign supply chains, let's make it in America. Look, economists
will the Republicans chant USA?
Call this increasing the productive capacity of our economy. I call it building a better America. My plan to fight inflation will lower your costs and lower the deficit. 17 Nobel laureates in economics said my plan will ease long-term inflationary pressures. Top business leaders, and I believe most Americans support the plan. And here's the plan. First, cut the cost of prescription drugs. We pay more.
How will we do that?
For the same drug produced by the same company in America than any other country in the world.
Republicans want high prescription drug costs.
1 in 10 Americans has diabetes. In Virginia, I met a 13-year-old boy, the handsome young man standing up there, Joshua Davis.
That's a little kid. All right. He looks younger than 13, but he's cute.
Both have type 1 diabetes, which means they need insulin every single day. Insulin costs about $10 a vial to make. That's what it costs the pharmaceutical company. But drug companies charge families like Joshua and his dad up to 30 times that amount. I spoke with Joshua's mom. Imagine what it's like to look at your child who needs insulin to stay healthy and have no idea how in God's name you're going to be able to pay for it.
What about if it was free?
What it does to your family, but what it does to your dignity, your ability to look your child in the eye, to be the parent you expect yourself to be. I really mean to think about that. That's what I think about.
Think about if it was free.
You know,
we have a plan for that.
Joshua's here tonight, but yesterday was his birthday. Happy birthday, buddy, by the way. For Joshua and 200,000 other young people with type 1 diabetes, let's cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month. So everyone can afford it.
Or not everyone can still afford it.
Very, very well, their profit margin.
Or for free.
While we're at it, I know we have great disagreements on this floor with this. Let's let Medicare negotiate the price of prescription drugs.
Yes, please, let's do that. But President Joe Manchin says no, so I guess that won't be happening.
Set the price for VA drugs. Look, the American Rescue Plan is helping millions of families with Affordable Care Act plans to save them $2,400 a year on their health premiums. Let's close the coverage gap and make these savings permanent. And second, let's cut energy costs for families, an average of $500 a year by combating climate change. Let's provide an investment tax credits to weatherize your home and your business, to be energy efficient and get a tax credit for it. Double America's clean energy production in solar, wind, and so much more. Lower the price of electric vehicles, saving another $80 a month that you're not going to have to pay at the pump. Folks, the third thing we can do to change the standard of living for hardworking folks is cut the cost of childcare. Cut the cost of childcare. Folks, if you live in a major city in America, you pay up to $14,000 a year for childcare per child. I was a single dad for 5 years, raising 2 kids. I had a lot of help, though. I had a mom, a dad, a brother, and a sister that really helped. But middle class and working folks shouldn't have to pay more than 7% of their income to care for the young children. My plan...
I agree.
My plan would cut the cost of child care in half for most families and help parents, including millions of women who left the workforce during the pandemic because they couldn't afford child care, to be able to get back to work, generating economic growth. But my plan doesn't stop there. It also includes home and long-term care, more affordable housing, pre-K for 3- and 4-year-olds. All these will lower costs to families. And under my plan, nobody, let me say this again, nobody earning less than $400,000 a year will pay an additional penny in new taxes. Not a single penny. I may be wrong.
Republicans don't like low taxes.
My guess is if we took a secret ballot in this floor, that we'd all agree that the present tax system ain't fair. We have to fix it. I'm not looking to punish anybody, but let's make corporations and wealthy Americans start paying their fair share.
We should punish. Look, we should punish some people. Some people actually deserve that.
Last year, like Chris Coons and Tom Carper and my distinguished Congresswoman, we come from the land of corporate America. There are more corporations incorporated in America than every other state in America combined. And I still won 36 years in a row. The point is, even they understand they should pay just a fair share. Last year, 55 of the Fortune 500 companies earned $40 billion in profit and paid 0 in federal taxes. Now look, It's not fair. That's why I proposed the 15% minimum tax rate for corporations. We've got...
Oh, did they not really want to... Did Pelosi did not want to clap for that?
Overseas we're able to put together, I was able to be somewhat helpful. 130 countries agree on a global minimum tax rate. So companies can't get out of paying their taxes at home by shipping jobs and factories overseas. It'll raise billions of dollars. That's why I propose closing loopholes for the very wealthy who pay a lower tax rate than a teacher and a firefighter. So that's my plan, but we have to go more detailed later. We will grow the economy, lower the cost of families. So what are we waiting for? Let's get this done. We all know we've got to make changes. Folks.
Yeah, right? Congress is doing like they don't allow it. I see you
while
slippery.
You're at it, confirm my nominees for the Federal Reserve, which plays a critical role.
I guess Republicans are in the way.
My plan will not only lower costs and give families a fair shot, it will lower the deficit. The previous administration not only ballooned the deficit with those tax cuts for the very wealthy and corporations, it undermined the watchdogs, the job of those to keep pandemic relief funds being wasted. Remember we had those debates about whether or not those watchdogs should be able to see every day how much money was being spent, where was it going to the right place? But in my administration, the watchdogs are back. And we're going to go after the criminals who stole billions of relief money meant for small business and millions of Americans. Tonight, I'm announcing that the Justice Department will soon name a chief prosecutor for pandemic fraud.
Oh, wow. That's actually huge. A lot of people stole money during that. I'm curious if they'll actually follow through on this. Like, how tough will he be? Because a lot of people stole money during that time. I remember.
I think we all agree. Thank you. By the end of this year, the deficit will be down to less than half of what it was before I took office. The only president ever to cut the deficit by more than $1 trillion in a single year. Lowering your cost also meant demanding more competition. I'm a capitalist, but capitalism without competition is not capitalism. Capitalism without competition is exploitation. It drives up profits. And corporations have to compete. Their profits go up and your prices go up when they don't have to compete. Small businesses and family farmers and ranchers, I need not tell some of my Republican friends from those states. Guess what? You got 4 basic meat packing facilities. That's it. You play with them or you don't get to play at all. And you pay a hell of a lot more. A hell of a lot more because there's only 4. See what's happening with ocean carriers and moving goods in and out of America. During the pandemic, about half a dozen or less foreign-owned companies raised prices by as much as 1,000% and made record profits. Tonight, I'm announcing a crackdown on those companies overcharging American businesses and consumers. And folks, and as Wall Street firms take over more nursing homes, quality in those homes has gone down and costs have gone up.
This is true.
That ends on my watch.
Really?
Medicare is going to set higher standards for nursing homes and make sure your loved ones get the care they deserve.
I would love
that.
that.
They inspect and they will look at closely.
Can they do that now?
We're also going to cut costs to keep the economy going strong and giving workers a fair shot.
I wonder if that's an executive
training
order.
And apprenticeships, hire them based on skills,
that'd be really
not just
good.
their degrees. Let's pass the Paycheck Fairness Act and paid leave. Raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour and extend the child tax credit so no one has to raise a family in poverty. Let's increase Pell Grants, increase our historic support for HBCUs, and invest in
Republicans
what Jill,
definitely won't clap
our
for
First
black
Lady
colleges.
Who teaches full-time, calls America's best kept secret, community colleges. Look, let's pass the PRO Act. When a majority of workers want to form a union, they shouldn't be able to be stopped.
Oh, they're clapping for Joe Biden.
When we invest in our workers and we build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out together, we can do something we haven't done in a long time. Build a better America. For more than 2 years, COVID has impacted every decision in our lives and the life of this nation. And I know you're tired, frustrated, and exhausted. That doesn't even count the close to 1 million people who sit at a dining room table or a kitchen table and look at an empty chair because they lost somebody. But I also know this, because of the progress we've made, because of your resilience and the tools that we have been provided by this Congress, tonight I can say we're moving forward safely back to more normal routines. We've reached a new moment in the fight against COVID-19, where severe cases are down to a level not seen since July of last year. Just a few days ago, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention issued a new mask guidelines. Under the new guidelines, most Americans and most of the country can now go mask-free. And based on projections...
Republicans got to clap for that one, right?
Based on projections, more of the country will reach a point across the next couple of weeks. And thanks to the progress we've made in the past year, COVID-19 no longer need control our lives. I know some are talking about living with COVID-19, but tonight I say that we never will just accept living with COVID-19. We'll continue to combat the virus as we do other diseases. And because this virus mutates and spreads, we have to stay on guard. And here are 4 common sense steps as we move forward safely, in my view. First, stay protected with vaccines and treatments. We know how incredibly effective vaccines are. If you're vaccinated and boosted, you have the highest degree of protection. And we'll never give up on vaccinating more Americans. Now, I know parents with kids under 5 are eager to see their vaccines authorized for their children. Scientists are working hard to get that done. We'll be ready with plenty of vaccines if and when they do. We're all ready. We are also ready with antiviral treatments. If you get COVID-19, the Pfizer pill reduces your chances of ending up in the hospital by 90%. I've ordered more pills than anyone in the world has. Pfizer's working overtime to get us 1 million pills this month and more than double that next month. And now we're launching the Test to Treat initiative. So people can get tested at a pharmacy, and if they prove positive, receive the antiviral pills on the spot at no cost.
Oh, okay, so we can deliver medicines at no cost. I like this. Let's advance in this direction.
If you're immunocompromised or have some other vulnerability, we have treatments and free high-quality masks. We're leaving no one behind or ignoring anyone's needs as we move forward.
Not sure about that.
On testing, we've made hundreds of millions of tests available, and you can order them for free to your doorstep. And we've already ordered free tests. If you already ordered free tests tonight, I'm announcing you can order another group of tests. Go to covidtest.gov starting next week, and you can get more tests. Second, we must prepare for new variants. Over the past, we've gotten much better at detecting new variants. If necessary, we'll be able to develop new vaccines within 100 days instead of maybe months or years. And if Congress provides the funds we need, we'll have new stockpiles of tests, masks, pills ready if needed. I can't promise a new variant won't come, but I can promise you we'll do everything within our power to be ready if it does. Third, we can end the shutdown of schools and businesses. We have the tools we need. It's time for America to get back to work and fill our great downtowns again with people. People working from home can feel safe and begin to return to their offices. We're doing that here in the federal government. The vast majority of federal workers will once again work in person. Our schools are open. Let's keep it that way. Our kids need to be in school. With 75% of adult Americans fully vaccinated and hospitalizations down by 77%, most Americans can remove their masks and stay in the classroom and move forward safely. We achieved this because we provided free vaccines, treatments, tests, and masks. Of course, continuing this costs money, so I'll not surprise you. I'll be back to see you all. And I'm going to soon send a request to Congress. The vast majority of Americans have used these tools and may want again. We may need them again, so I expect Congress, and I hope you'll pass that quickly. Fourth, we'll continue vaccinating the world. We've sent 475 million vaccine doses to 112 countries, more than any nation on earth. We won't stop because you can't build a wall high enough to keep out a vaccine. The vaccine can stop the spread of these diseases. You know, we've lost so much in COVID-19. Time with one another. The worst of all, the loss of life. Let's use this moment to reset. So stop looking at COVID as a partisan dividing line. See it for what it is, a god-awful disease. Let's stop seeing each other as enemies and start seeing each other for who we are, fellow Americans. Look.
I wish.
We can't change how divided we've been. It was a long time in coming. But we can change how to move forward on COVID-19 and other issues that we must face together. I recently visited the New York City Police Department days after the funerals of Officer Wilbur Mora and his partner, Officer Jason Rivera. They were responding to a 9/11 call when a man shot and killed them with a stolen gun. Officer Moore was 27 years old. Officer Rivera was 22 years old. Both Dominican Americans who grew up in the same streets that they later chose to parole to.
Did he mean a 911 call? He said 9/11 call. It's very confusing.
I spoke with their families, and I told them that we were forever in debt for their sacrifices, and will carry on their mission to restore the trust and safety of every community deserves. Like some of you that have been around for a while, I've worked with you on these issues for a long time. I know what works. Investigating crime prevention and community policing, cops who walk the beat, who know the neighborhood, and who can restore trust and safety. Let's not abandon our streets or choose between safety and equal justice. Let's come together and protect our communities, restore trust, and hold law enforcement accountable. That's why the Justice Department has required body cameras, banned chokeholds, and restricted no-knock warrants for its officers. That's why the American Rescue Plan that you all provided $350 billion that cities, states, and counties can use to hire more police, invest in more proven strategies. Proven strategies like community violence interruption, trusted messengers, breaking the cycle of violence and trauma, and giving young people some hope. We should all agree the answer is not to defund the police. It's to fund the police.
Defund the police. I won't back down. The Republicans stand up for that. Give cops more money.
Fund them with resources and training. Resources and training they need to protect our communities. I ask Democrats and Republicans alike to pass my budget and keep our neighborhoods safe. And we'll do everything in my power to crack down on gun trafficking of ghost guns that you can buy online, assemble at home, no serial numbers, can't be traced. I ask Congress to pass proven measures to reduce gun violence. Pass universal background checks. Why should anyone on the terrorist list be able to purchase a weapon? Why? Why? And folks,
I guess.
Ban assault weapons with high-capacity magazines that hold up 100 rounds. You think the deer are wearing Kevlar vests? Look, repeal the liability shield that makes gun manufacturers the only industry in America that can't be sued. The only one. Imagine had we done that with the tobacco manufacturers. These laws don't infringe on the Second Amendment. They save lives. The most fundamental right in America is the right to vote and have it counted. And look, it's under assault. In state after state, new laws have been passed. Not only to suppress the vote, we've been there before, but to subvert the entire election. We can't let this happen. Tonight I call on the Senate to pass the Freedom to Vote Act, pass the John Lewis Act, Voting Rights Act. And while you're at it, pass the Disclose Act so Americans know who's funding our election. Look, tonight, I like to honor someone who dedicated his life to serve this country. Justice Breyer, an Army veteran, constitutional scholar, retiring Justice of the United States Supreme Court. Justice Breyer, thank you for your service. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean it. Get up, stand, let them see you.
I don't think that the Republicans kept that.
And we all know.
Oh, they did. That's surprising.
No matter what your ideology, we all know one of the most serious constitutional responsibility a president has is nominating someone to serve on the United States Supreme Court. As I did 4 days ago, I've nominated the Circuit Court of Appeals, Ketanji Brown Jackson, one of our nation's top legal minds, who continue in Justice Breyer's legacy of excellence. A former top litigator in private practice, a former federal public defender, from a family of public school educators and police officers. She's a consensus builder. Since she's been nominated, she's received a broad range of support, including the Fraternal Order of Police and former judges supported by Democrats and Republicans. Folks, if we're to advance liberty and justice, we need to secure our border and fix the immigration system.
Bipartisanship. Oh, wonderful. Secure our borders. More violence against Mexican people.
And as you might guess, I think we can do both. At our border, we've installed new technology like cutting-edge scanners to better detect drug smuggling. We've set up joint patrols with Mexico and Guatemala to catch more human traffickers. We're putting in place dedicated immigration judges, a significant larger number, so families fleeing persecution and violence can have their cases heard faster, and those who don't legitimately hear can be sent back. We're screening, we're securing commitments, and supporting partners in South and Central America to host more refugees and secure their own borders. We can do all this while keeping lit the torch of liberty that has led a generation of immigrants to this land, my forebears and many of yours. Provide a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, those with temporary status, farm workers, essential workers. Revise our laws so businesses have workers they need and families don't wait decades to reunite. It's not only the right thing to do, it's economically smart thing to do. That's why the immigration reform is supported by everyone from labor unions to religious leaders to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Let's get it done once and for all. Folks, advancing liberty and justice also requires protecting the rights of women. The constitutional right affirmed by Roe v. Wade, standing precedent for half a century, is under attack as never before. If you want to go forward, not backwards, we must protect access to health care, preserve a woman's right to choose, and continue to advance maternal health care for all Americans.
She's definitely not standing for that one. But
LGBTQ
judges usually don't stand for anything.
Let's finally get the Bipartisan Equality Act to my desk. The onslaught of state laws targeting transgender Americans and their families. It's simply wrong.
Damn right.
I said last year, especially to our younger transgender Americans, I'll always have your back as your president so you can be yourself and reach your God-given potential. Folks,
And they get a lot of exercise that's standing.
As I've just demonstrated, while it often appears we do not agree, and that we do agree on a lot more things than we acknowledge. I signed 80 bipartisan bills into law last year, from preventing government shutdowns, to protecting aged Americans from still too common hate crimes, to reforming military justice, and will soon be strengthening the Violence Against Women Act that I first wrote 3 decades ago. It's important. It's important for us to show the nation we can come together and do big things. So tonight I'm offering a unity agenda for the nation. 4 big things we can do together, in my view. First, beat the opioid epidemic. There's so much we can do.
We really don't talk about that much anymore at this point.
Increase funding for prevention, treatment, harm reduction, and recovery. Get rid of outdated rules and stop doctors that stop doctors from prescribing treatments. Stop the flow of illicit drugs by working with state and local law enforcement to go after the traffickers. And if you're suffering from addiction, you should know you're not alone. I believe in recovery, and I celebrate the 23 million Americans in recovery. Second, let's take on mental health, especially among our children whose lives and education have been turned upside down. The American Rescue Plan gave schools money to hire teachers and help students make up for lost learning. I urge every parent to make sure your school does just that. They have the money. We can all play a part. Sign up to be a tutor or a mentor. Children were also struggling before the pandemic: bullying, violence, trauma, and the harms of social media. As Frances Haugen, who is here tonight with us, has shown, we must hold social media platforms accountable for the national experiment they're conducting on our children for profit.
Oh, I think she's a Facebook, the Facebook person who leaked, the Facebook leaker.
Thank you.
She leaked those documents. It was a huge thing.
It's time to strengthen privacy protections, ban targeted advertising to children, demand tech companies stop collecting personal data on our children, and let's get all Americans the mental health services they need. More people can turn for help, and full parity between physical and mental health care if we treat it that way in our insurance. Look, the third piece of that agenda is support our veterans. Veterans are the backbone and the spine of this country. They're the best of us. I've always believed that we have a sacred obligation to equip those we send to war and care for those in their family when they come home. My administration is providing assistance in job training, housing, and now helping lower-income veterans get VA care debt-free. And our troops in Iraq and Afghanistan have faced many dangers, one being stationed at bases breathing in toxic smoke from burn pits. Many of you have been there. I've been in and out of Iraq and Afghanistan over 40 times. These burn pits that incinerate waste, the waste of war, medical and hazardous material, jet fuel, and so much more. And they come home, many of the world's fittest and best trained warriors in the world. Never the same. Headaches, numbness, dizziness. A cancer that would put them in a flag-draped coffin. I know. One of those.
I think it was Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't know what she said.
Major Bo Biden.
What did she say? I don't know
for sure if the burn pit that he lived near, that his hooch was near, in Iraq and earlier than that in Kosovo, is the cause of his brain cancer, the disease of so many other troops. But I am committed to find out everything we can, committed to military families like Danielle Robinson from Ohio, the widow of Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson. He was born a soldier, Army National Guard, combat medic in Kosovo and Iraq, stationed near Baghdad, just yards from burn pits the size of football fields. Danielle is here with us tonight. They love going to Ohio State football games. And they love building Legos with their daughter. But cancer from prolonged exposure to burn pits ravaged Heath's lungs and body. Danielle says Heath was a fighter to the very end. He didn't know how to stop fighting, and neither did she. Through her pain, she found purpose to demand that we do better. Tonight, Danielle, we are going to do better. The VA is pioneering new ways of linking toxic exposure to disease, already helping more veterans get benefits. And tonight, I'm announcing we're expanding eligibility to veterans suffering from 9 respiratory cancers. I'm also calling on Congress to pass a law to make sure veterans devastated by toxic exposure in Iraq and Afghanistan.
I'm happy for this, but it's just like, why is it only certain ailments, right, that we seem to care about? That's my only problem. It's just I wish we did this for all ailments. I wish we cared for all of them. Then we wouldn't have to pass individual bills for these things, right? It would just be taken care of.
And fourth and last, let's end cancer as we know it. This is personal.
Cancer killed his son, one of his sons.
This is personal to me and to Jill and to Kamala.
Or Biden, I believe.
So many of you have lost someone you love. Husband, wife, son, daughter, mom, dad. Cancer is the #2 cause of death in America, second only to heart disease. Last month, I announced the plan to supercharge the cancer moonshot that President Obama asked me to lead 6 years ago. Our goal is to cut cancer death rates by at least 50% over the next 25 years, and I think we can do better than that. Turn cancers from death sentences into treatable diseases. More support for patients and their families. To get there, I call on Congress to fund what I called ARPA-H, Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health, patterned after DARPA in the Defense Department. Projects that led in DARPA to the internet, GPS, and so much more to make our forces more safer and be able to wage war with more clarity. ARPA will have a singular purpose: to drive breakthroughs in cancer, Alzheimer's and diabetes, and more. A unity agenda for the nation. We can do these things. It's within our power, and I don't see a partisan edge to any one of those 4 things. My fellow Americans, tonight, we've gathered in this sacred space, a citadel of democracy, in this Capitol. Generation after generation of Americans have debated great questions amid great strife and have done great things. We fought for freedom, expanded liberty, debated totalitarianism and terror. We built the strongest, freest, and most prosperous nation the world has ever known. Now is the hour, our moment of responsibility, our test of resolve and conscience, of history itself. It is in this moment that our character of this generation is formed. Our purpose is found. Our future is forged. Well, I know this nation. We'll meet the test, protect freedom and liberty, expand fairness and opportunity, and we will save democracy. As hard as those times have been, I'm more optimistic about America today than I've been my whole life, because I see the future that's within our grasp, because I know there's simply nothing beyond our capacity. We're the only nation on earth that has always turned every crisis we've faced into an opportunity. The only nation that can be defined by a single word, possibilities. So on this night, on our 245th year as a nation, I've come to report on the state of the nation, the State of the Union. And my report is this: the State of the Union is strong because you, the American people, are strong. We are stronger today. We are stronger today than we were a year ago. And we'll be stronger a year from now than we are today. This is our moment to meet and overcome the challenges of our time. And we will, as one people, one America, the United States of America. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you. Go get him.
I feel like everyone claps at the end of this. Is like, yay, we're done.
President Biden speaking for a little over an hour in his first State of the Union.
It's a pretty short State of the
speech.
Union, actually. Usually it's much
Spending
fucking
about
longer.
the first 10 or 11 minutes.
I mean, I appreciate it because they'll just like long and just fill in with whatever the fuck.
And the American-led
I feel like Trump's speeches were much
that have stood up to Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
But what we saw just a few minutes ago, about 6 minutes near the end of the speech, we heard an interruption in the crowd. A member of Congress, I want to go to NBC News senior Capitol Hill correspondent Garrett Haake.
I think it was Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Inside the chamber, what was that we heard as the president was beginning to talk about his late son, Beau?
Yeah, Lester, that was Republican Lauren Boebert from Colorado. As the president was talking about warriors in flag-draped coffins, she interjected 13 of them, I believe, a reference to the American servicemen and men who were killed in Afghanistan during the withdrawal. She and Marjorie Taylor Greene, another Republican freshman, kept up something of a running commentary throughout much of the speech, interjecting in segments about immigration and segments about COVID, jumping up and clearly audible commentary, even as far away as I am upstairs in the gallery.
And it sounded like some were trying to shush her.
Yeah, there was definitely a reaction. They're only a few seats away from the aisle, the center aisle of the chamber that separates the Democrats from the Republicans. There was definitely a significant reaction from those who heard her jumping in. Not entirely clear where it was coming from, but clearly an unwelcome interruption from most of the other folks in the chamber, Lester.
Garrett, thank you.
We want to turn to NBC's chief White House correspondent, Peter Alexander, who's been listening to this speech. It felt like the top of the speech was a rewrite.
Okay, all right. So that was the thing. Lauren Boebert, it's one of the crazies, not surprising, but apparently her and Marjorie Taylor Greene were doing a whole thing, this entire time. But that's fine. Wow. 13, because the Afghanistan pullout. Wow, that was completely unnecessary, but all right. Anyway, to the rest of you, we're gonna have an open panel. So if you want to come on and discuss this, all right, well then jump on in. We'd love to have a conversation with you about this. Yeah, we'd love to have a conversation with you about this. So jump in. Exclamation point open in chat. Exclamation open in chat to help us out, support the community. Or I mean, not support the community. I mean, just to jump in here. So let's open a walk-on panel. We can join in, right? So jump into the robot waiting room, and you'll be let in. We'd love to have you. So I saw a few of you guys wanted to talk about this. So yeah, we'll have a conversation. Yeah. So I guess maybe should I do my initial impressions now, or when someone jumps in and we have a conversation? I don't know. Let me jump in here. Oh, that's me up there, right? So we'll do that conversation. I'm you guys want to be a part of it. Oh, nice. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, jump on in. I'll talk to you about it, I guess. Why not? Why not, Wick? Heroes. My man Wick's always here. But yeah, if you guys want to have a conversation, then we'll do so. Yeah. Wick's here. Hey, Wick. How are you, buddy?
Oh, doing pretty good. Just got that uh I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. What do you think? I want to hear your thoughts, Prime.
Oh, you want to hear my initial thoughts? Okay.
I do.
I mean, it was a standard speech, you know. Um, I there were some good points. I like the thought of doing something about elder care, right? Like actually tackling that. Will they do so? Like, what does that actually look like? That's going up against like big finance, which Biden's always been friendly with. So what's changed? Like how and I don't know what's involved. He said he's gonna have Medicare regulate that harder, stronger. I don't know, whatever, right? But just have more regulations to protect people in elder care because the quality of care has fallen because groups like BlackRock or whatever the fuck now own a bunch of these things because why not, right? Why not? And how they increase profits is to cut quality, as always, as always. So he's saying that they're going to increase regulation. I'm for it. Does that require? Is that just the executive order? Then I guess that's something you can actually do. If it's anything more than that, well, then we have to ask, President Joe Manchin if he'll allow it. But yeah.
Well, it also better be before the midterms, or else it's going to be much, much harder to deal with, I think.
Yeah.
One of the things that always kind of catches me with these speeches, these States of the Unions and things like that, is uh, I don't know. It's hard to really know what to think because I need to hear the details of these plans. I need to hear how they're going to do these things because whether I support it or not really depends on how. Does that make sense? I would be great if we improved, you know, elder care, if we improved all these things, but unless you have and I understand that this is the space for it. I get it. It's kind of a rah-rah, go USA kind of situation here. But I don't know. It just feels I don't know. I wasn't impressed with the speech that much. I thought it was fine. Nothing game changing.
But okay, that's the thing though. One of these speeches anything other than that, right?
Well, that's true. I mean, yeah. I mean, he did what he needed to do. I do think he made a few misspeaks and stuff like that. That's going to be played on Republican airways from now until eternity. Like Biden doesn't know it's Ukrainians and not Iranians that are being surrounded in Kiev. I don't know if you caught that part where he mixed up the name. Yeah, so it is just going to be those misspeaks and missteps just played over and over again. But
yeah, and they'll be saying, it's dementia, the entire time. But like, all right, whatever. Yeah, I think that I mean the speech was solid, and like I said during the coverage, I don't understand. Oh, I mean, I do understand. I just said I hate the fact that there's only certain diseases, special diseases that we give a shit about, right? So, the COVID-19, obviously, right? Special disease in which we'll pay for medication. Great, love to see it. And then Biden was talking about the burn pits that happened during our various wars, and like the lung diseases, I guess, or whatever, was sprung from that, and we'll cover cost of treatment for that. Great, love to see it. And this follows along with like the 9/11 victims funds, right? Like the paying for their care, right? Yeah, love to see that too. But if you're outside of those special diseases, or if you aren't eligible, if you have those special diseases, but not from those specific sources, then yeah, also you're fucked.
I know I'm with you here, Prime. I'm with you. I'd love to see the expansion of medical coverage for everyone and not just specific groups. And that's what it is. It's not so much the specific disease itself. It's these very specific groups, veterans, victims of 9/11, for example. I don't know. But it's what's possible. Politics is always the art of the possible. And unfortunately, in our current climate, that seems to be all that they can do. Now, whether that's actually true, if they I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they push for more expansive coverage, if they get it or not. I just don't know.
Um, I feel like for a veteran thing, oh, sorry, if you're talking, you mean in general, right?
Yeah, in general, for the expansion in general, yes.
Yeah. I'm sure they won't. I mean, I don't know who push for more expansive coverage. Who would actually do the pushing, right? So I have no, I have no faith that will happen.
Yeah.
Hey, half baked takes. Hey, how do you want us to refer to you as? Half
I
baked.
mean, you can call me Half Baked Takes. You can call me Todd.
Okay.
You can call me Todd from Half Baked Takes.
Okay, Todd. Hey, how are you? Thanks for being here. Nice to see you again. What are your thoughts?
Dude, Jesus Christ. So, because I am the enlightened centrist that you guys all deserve, but don't exactly take seriously all the time, I would say that the speech had some incredible positives. He really hit on a lot of points that I think are going to resonate with, the average American. If you were somebody who's not like super well versed in politics, especially if you're not tribal, you're going to look at a lot of the stuff he said as, incredibly like positive for the country. If you look at it a little bit deeper, I saw a lot of things that I just don't know. He made so many fucking promises in a speech where he already has a lot on his plate that he's dealing with. I don't know if coming out and saying you're gonna like fucking do everything from produce more semiconductors to slowing the spread, or like stopping like cancer rate, or slowing cancer rates, death rates, and talking about like Roe v. Wade, and it just felt like there were a lot of things that he could have left out that I think would have benefited him from a deeper political view.
I disagree. I disagree a lot with that, because these speeches are always general and like wide ranging, right? Like, and with the speech that he had here, it was only an hour long. Again, these are usually much longer. I think it was like 2 hours long. I think Trump did like a 2 hour long speech. I think Obama did a 2 hour long speech one time. Like, these things are super long. He actually was straight to the point here, right? There wasn't a lot of fluff, but yeah, he's talking about his like entire agenda. This is what you do. Why leave anything out? Anything that you think? Okay.
No, Prime. I agree with you that the State of the Union, I'm not asking him to give me like every policy prescription for these things, right? I'm just saying that the man already has a lot on his plate. There's three massive things that he was going to focus on, that everybody knew he was going to focus on. He was going to talk about the COVID thing, which was going to be, hey, we need to move past it. That was all positive. You knew he was going to talk about the Russia and Ukraine situation, obviously. And I think that got sufficient amount of time, because this is the State of the Union. We need to be talking about American issues. And while that is going to affect Americans to a great deal, I think you should probably stick to domestic policy during State of the Unions typically. It just felt like, dude, he was talking about like the cancer shit. Like, he's going back to the cancer, bringing that down by 50%. At least he's not saying like they're going to cure cancer like he did during the campaign. But I mean, he was also he was jumping back and forth from talking about hitting on real shit, and then he would jump to a different thing. Like, how many times did he start talking about the vaccine, and then he would start talking about fucking something random, and then he jumps back into the vaccine talk, and it just felt like all over the place to me.
I don't know. I think that your concern that he's overpromising and going to underdeliver is valid, but that's what politicians do, right? I mean, this is what they've done for my entire lifetime, at least. They always make these grandiose promises, and then when it gets into the meat grinder of policy and politics and legislation, it always comes out half-baked. And you should know, as half-baked takes, that this happens.
Thank you.
So I don't see this as a flaw in the speech. I see this as a flaw in the system. The one thing that struck me when listening to Biden was the bit about cutting off American airspace to all Russian flights. That
Yeah.
step, I don't know about that. I don't know how I feel.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm fine with them cutting it off in American airspace. Like if they're, right now I don't want Russian aircraft coming through American
Why?
airspace.
Why?
You
Like
can't say why.
Flights from Russia is what it is, not
Yeah,
Russian
these are
aircraft.
commercial.
Flights from,
These are commercial airlines. Why them? What's wrong with them?
Can't Russians fly non-Russian based airlines?
Okay, so what he means by that, as I understood it, and maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But as I understood it, it means any flight coming from Russia to the U.S. will be not allowed. That's what I understood of it. Am I wrong here, Prime?
Sorry, that from Russia to U.S.
Yes.
That's what it sounded like to me, like direct flights.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like
Really
to me.
quick,
Maybe I'm wrong.
I'm pretty sure I'm correct on this, that what that means is that we are not going to allow any Russian aircraft, any aircraft that has like registration in Russia is like a Russian company. Russian airline.
Sure, you're saying beyond the Russian airline. Okay, still.
If it's an American Airlines flight coming from Moscow.
No.
He's talking about.
Yeah. We get that. We're talking.
No. Wick said he didn't get it. Wick, tell me if I'm wrong.
Again, I might be wrong. But I thought that any flight from Russia. But if it's just
he said Russian airlines.
Like a Russian airline.
He said Russian
coming
airlines,
to here. Yeah. I don't know, like a commercial passenger airline. That still strikes me as a little weird.
We're trying, but aren't we trying to sanction their economy in every way humanly possible? And one of those ways
we don't want to look. I get it. I'm for military intervention in Ukraine. But
really,
I am. But there are limits. If a policy that we put in place is going to hurt the Russian people more than Russia itself, then I would think twice about it. Does that make sense? I'm not for any and all sanctions. Does that make sense?
If you're willing to go to military incursion, I don't know why you're not willing to go to any and all.
Because a limited military intervention can be done in ways that wouldn't hurt the Russian people as much as cutting off all air traffic. Does that make sense?
Dude, the pain that's being felt by the Russian people, none of that is at the fault of the people imposing these sanctions. I'm sorry, dude.
But we still have a responsibility. If someone does something wrong, if someone says something horrific, that doesn't mean we can do any fucking thing we want to them. Does that make sense?
I guess, but the only way that
we can't start torturing Russian people.
The only way to justify imposing these sanctions at all is to create a situation where the Russian people are feeling too much pressure, and therefore Putin, to save his own ass, would have to, stop this military operation. I don't know if Putin actually will. He's shown a great deal of just zero fucks given about the Russian people, but there has to be a breaking point. And the only way you're going to get to that breaking point is by squeezing Russia as much as you can. And if you're not going to do it through military incursion, and you're not going to start putting pressure on them that way, you have to do it through economic sanctions. And the only way economic sanctions work is if you do them full bore, heavy-handed. It's got to be everything.
But we have been doing it heavy-handed. We have been doing it full bore. This just seems like
I know, good. And you're saying we shouldn't be doing one of those, and I'm saying
this specific one bothers me. This specific one, not the removal from SWIFT, not the economic sanctions on the oligarchs and things like that, and oligarch companies within Russia. I get that, but this specific one seems to, I don't know. Maybe
this is
people
not
who
going
are
to limit.
more.
This isn't going to limit the Russian civilians' ability to, fly into America. They can get on an aircraft. They can get on an aircraft that is not registered in Russia or is not a Russian-based airline, and they can fly into America. I guarantee that.
I'm going to hold you to that. And
I don't know. I don't know if Russia is allowing any.
You sounded pretty confident.
I am confident. I'm telling you, there could be a situation where Russia is not allowing any American or any Western or any non-Russian airlines into its country, so therefore none can leave. So none could, theoretically bring Russians to America on non-Russian based aircraft. If that's the situation, then obviously the point's moot, and we're both looking at it like,
why would he want to put
up.
further pressure on the economy by limiting the number of airlines?
Because obviously the sanctions haven't done enough. Putin's.
But why would
escalate.
Putin want to do that? Like you said, from Russia's perspective, Russia also limiting airlines. Why would they want to do that?
Wait. Sorry, say the last sentence.
It sounded like you were saying Russia would limit airlines too, but why would they want to do that to themselves?
I don't know if they're doing that. I'm saying that could be a situation where we'd see Russians being unable to fly into America. I was telling you that with the sanction that he's implementing right now, it's not putting any complete restriction on Russians getting into America. They could just fly a different airline, is what I was saying.
Okay. All right. Anyway, there were other parts to this speech.
No, 100%. Go ahead. What did you think? What was the best part of it to you?
I don't know. Best part.
What sticks in your mind is like strong?
Well, I don't know, all these things. I mean, it's just liberal reforms on the edges. So there's nothing that's particularly strong to me.
That's true.
I mean, you're talking about lowering prescription drug prices. Did the whole thing with insulin and the little boy, right? Okay, well, great. First of all, it's better than nothing, right? Like, it's not what I want, which is Medicare for all. Fine. But will that actually happen? Can you actually get President Joe Manchin to agree to it? I don't know. Who knows, right? Let's ask him. Let's ask Joe Manchin if we're allowed to have lower drug prices. I think the answer is no. So I'm not particularly impressed by that. If it can't be followed out. Hello, Spirit Toby. Hello, hi.
Hey, what's up?
Hi. Did you want to add something?
No, I just got here. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. So I didn't think this would be like that would be strong to me, but like, can he actually pull that off? I have no idea. What do y'all think?
I don't know. I honestly, I do not think so. I think that but this is because I don't think he has enough time between now and the midterms, and once the midterms comes, he's just not going to be able to do anything.
And I could be wrong about this. I could be, because I don't remember, because there were a lot of fights that Biden lost. But wasn't this included in one of the other bills, like honestly,
the Build
Back
I don't
Better
know.
bill? I think it was included in the Build Back Better bill.
Wait, what was what?
The Medicare negotiating negotiating prescription drug prices. I could be wrong about that, but I think that was there, and then that got cut.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was part of the cuts that were done in the negotiations. But regardless, I don't think anybody's gonna get hot and bothered about saying like, "Hey, let's lower insulin costs."
Hold on, pause. The GOP response. I didn't realize that's happening. Let's want to listen to this.
But we shouldn't ignore what happened in the run-up to Putin's invasion, waiving sanctions on Russian pipelines while eliminating oil production here at home, focusing on political correctness rather than military readiness, reacting to world events instead of driving them. Weakness on the world stage has a cost, and the president's approach to foreign policy has consistently been Too little, too late. It's time for America to once again project confidence. It's time to be decisive. It's time to lead. But we can't project strength abroad if we're weak at home. And that's what I want to discuss with you tonight. The President and Democrats in Congress have spent the last year either ignoring the issues facing Americans or making them worse. They were warned that spending trillions would lead to soaring inflation. They were told that their anti-energy policies would send gas prices to new heights, but they plowed ahead anyway, raising the price at the pump by 50% and pushing inflation to a 40-year high. 4 decades ago, when our nation was last reeling from inflation, I was a young working mom just starting out. My husband Kevin worked days while I watched our girls, and then we would literally switch. We would pass in the yard as he was coming home, and I was leaving to work evenings at the local grocery store. From across that checkout counter, I saw the pain of inflation on my neighbors' faces. I saw what happens when prices rise faster than wages. The Biden administration believes inflation is a, quote, high-class problem. I can tell you, it's an everybody problem. I saw moms and dads' paychecks buy them less and less. I watched working people choose which essentials to take home and which ones to leave behind. And now President Biden's decisions have a whole new generation feeling that same pain. When I took the oath of office 5 years ago, I promised Iowans that I would never lose sight of who I was working for, that I wouldn't become detached from the problems they were facing, from the problems that I had faced myself. But you don't have to check groceries to see what high inflation does to people. You just need to step outside of the DC bubble. Talk to Americans about what's on their mind. Ask them, what are your concerns? What keeps you up at night? And they'll tell you. And I can tell you what's not on that list. They won't tell you that spending trillions more and bankrupting their children is the answer to their problems. They won't tell you that we should be paying people not to work. And they certainly won't tell you that we should give billions in tax giveaways to millionaires and billionaires in Democrat-controlled states like California, New York, and New Jersey. But that's what the Biden administration has been pushing for over the last year. And that's all part of Build Back Better. Thankfully, the president's agenda didn't pass because even members of his own party said enough is enough. Well, the American people share that view. Enough is enough. And it's not just with DC spending. Americans are tired of a political class trying to remake this country into a place where an elite few tell everyone else what they can and cannot say, what they can and cannot believe. They're tired of people pretending the way to end racism is by categorizing everybody by their race. They're tired of politicians who tell parents they should sit down, be silent, and let government control their kids' education and future. Frankly, they are tired of the theater, where politicians do one thing when the cameras are rolling and another when they believe you can't see them, where governors and mayors enforce mandates but don't follow them, where elected leaders tell their citizens to stay home while they sneak off to Florida for sun and fun, where they demand that your child wear a mask, but they go maskless. So you've heard the excuses. They were just holding their breath, but it's the American people who are waiting to exhale, waiting for the insanity to stop. We now live in a country where violent crime is out of control. Liberal prosecutors are letting criminals off easy.
Out of control.
And many prominent Democrats still want to defund the police. You know, it seems like everything is backwards. The Biden administration requires vaccines for Americans who want to go to work or protect this country, but not for migrants who illegally cross the border. The Department of Justice treats parents like domestic terrorists, but looters and shoplifters roam free.
Sure.
The American people are left to feel like they're the enemy. This is not the same country it was a year ago. The president tried to paint a different picture tonight, but his actions over the last 12 months don't match the rhetoric. It's not what he promised when he took office. But it doesn't have to be that way. There is an alternative. Across the nation, Republican governors and legislators are
attacking
showing
trans
Americans
kids.
what conservative leadership looks like, what it means to respect the people we serve, to hear them out, to stand up for them and walk alongside them. We know that our problems require bold action, but we also know that bold action doesn't have to mean government action. It's Americans making their own decisions for their own families and future. Republican governors face the same COVID-19 virus head-on. But we honored your freedoms and saw right away that lockdowns and school closures, they came with their own significant cost, that mandates weren't the answer. And we actually listened to the science, especially with kids in masks and kids in schools. What happened and is still happening to our children over the last 2 years is unconscionable. Learning loss, isolation, anxiety, depression. In so many states, our kids have been left behind, and so many will never catch up. That's why Iowa was the first state in the nation to require that schools open their doors. I was attacked by the left, I was attacked by the media, but it wasn't a hard choice. It was the right choice. And keeping schools open is only the start of the pro-parent, pro-family revolution that Republicans are leading in Iowa and states across this country. Republicans believe that parents matter. It was true before the pandemic, and it has never been more important to say out loud. Parents matter. They have a right to know and to have a say in what their kids are being taught. Families also have every right to live in a safe and a secure community, and that begins with a safe and secure country. But the Biden administration has refused to secure our border. They've refused to provide the resources to stop human trafficking, to stop the staggering influx of deadly drugs coming into our neighborhoods. They've refused to protect you. With Texas and Arizona leading the way, I, along with Republican governors from several states, have sent resources to the border. And we've actually gone to the border, something that our president and vice president have yet to do since taking office. On the economy, the contrast couldn't be more stark. While Democrats in D.C. are spending trillions, sending inflation soaring, Republican leaders around the country are balancing budgets and cutting taxes, because we know that money spent on Main Street is better than money spent on bureaucracy.
God, what a fraud.
Today, I signed legislation that eliminates Iowa's tax on retirement income and sets our tax rate at 3.9%. That's less than half of what it was just 4 years ago. And it shouldn't come as a surprise that out of the top 20 states with the lowest unemployment rates, 17 have Republican governors. Republicans may not have the White House, but we're doing what we can to fill the leadership vacuum. And on the issues that are affecting Americans, Republicans are leading. We're standing up for parents and kids. We're standing up for life. We're keeping our communities safe and thanking those in uniform. We're fighting to restore America's energy independence, and that includes biofuels. We're getting people back to work, not paying them to stay home. Most of all, we're respecting your freedom. Behind me stands Iowa's Capitol, where we display our state motto, our liberties we prize and our rights we will maintain. And those aren't just empty words. It's a belief that the greatness of this state and this country lies in our people, not government. You shouldn't have to wake up every morning and worry about the next thing the government is going to do to you, your business, or your children. If we as elected leaders are doing our job, then the government is working well, but operating in the background. It's supporting the ingenuity and spirit of our people, not drowning them out. It's keeping them safe, not restricting their freedom. That's what I believe, that's what Republicans believe, and that's what Republicans are doing. I am so blessed to be the governor of Iowa, where people are humble, hardworking, and patriotic. We take care of each other. And yes, we are, as they say, Iowa nice. But you don't have to be from Iowa to see that those are the values of America at its best, all of America. Over the last few years, I've put my faith in Iowans, and they haven't let me down. I encourage this president to do the same, to put his faith in you, the American people, who have never wavered in your belief in this country, regardless of who leads it. Because you know, you've shown that the soul of America isn't about who lives in the White House. It's men and women like you in every corner of this nation who are willing to step up and take responsibility for your communities, for your neighbors, and ultimately for yourselves. By that most important measure at least, the state of our union is indeed strong. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
The Republican response from Kim Reynolds, governor of Iowa.
Okay.
Both speeches hit on rising inflation that's hitting Americans hard. We want to go to NBC News senior business analyst Stephanie Rule with that. Stephanie?
Okay. All right. Back to what we're doing. And guys, if you want to join in, exclamation for open in chat.
In public health.
Oh,
Hi,
hey.
Prime.
Hey. Yeah, back to everyone else. If you want to join in, exclamation point open in chat. And shout out to Sonder again. Thank you for the 5 subs. Thanks for the investment. Hey, support the channel, sub to the channel, give bits or give subs. You know, the leaderboards are empty. Leaderboards empty. Only Sonder is there in the leaderboards. It's your time to shine. So help us out if you're enjoying this coverage, enjoying us having this talk, enjoying us having this space, then subs to the channel, give bits or give subs. Again, thank you to Sonder for being so kind and gifting 5 subs. Okay. No, Sonder, if you want to join, you can. Feel free. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, join, man. Please join.
Yeah.
But no, Prime. Are you one of those streamers that like treats your audience like shit? Like you fucking worms. You
What?
fucking
No, Prime's been
don't.
super nice to us. He lets me on of all people. He's
Well,
super
no.
nice.
Well, no, obviously, but you know how like there's like this. I don't know. It's like a trend with Twitch political streamers to kind of just like, hey, donate. Thanks for the donation, you fucking ugly bitch. Like it just seems like they're ruthless to the Destinies and Bosches of the world. Seem to treat their audience kind of rough. So
I'm always grateful for the people who are supporting my community. So no. But anyway,
that's fair.
Back to this. Yeah.
I have a couple thoughts.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but like I this really bothers me whenever I hear it. So I'm a veteran, and every time the GOP is like, "Oh, we support veterans. Oh, we're very thankful for your service. We thank you for your service." I don't need a thanks for my service. I need a VA that works. I need a support system that works for me. The GOP has opposed such measures in the past, and it just frustrates me. And they say, "Oh, we're standing up for children." No, they're not. They're doing the exact opposite. You mentioned in the spiel that they're attacking trans kids. They're putting bills that attack trans children, and it's just so frustrating to me how two-faced it all seems. Now I get it. Democrats are hypocrites too. Not gonna lie there, but it just seems extra yuck when it comes from that. I don't know.
It felt like obviously the GOP is always like going to hammer home the veteran stuff. They have, in my opinion, done a lot more for veterans and for the military in general. The VA has been dog shit for a long time, but it did get improved under GOP, like under Trump. That was one of the few things that he did that was really positive. So they're gonna obviously hammer that point home. But like, I didn't even get that from that speech at all. Like that was the weakest response to what I saw as like kind of a meh State of the Union. They could have drove home a ton of talking points and really like went at him about the inflation and hammered home the economy stuff and talked about the Russia Ukraine, like how he's responding to it and how we could be doing more and like how he didn't do enough originally. Like there's so many fucking things, but instead, classic GOP, they're like, we're gonna focus on culture war shit. Let's talk about basically they're insinuated, they didn't say it, but critical race theory. They're going at the like that divide between parents and like educators. That's not the shit we need to be talking about right now. There's too many big things going on for us to be worried about so many fucking stupid culture war issues.
Like, I get that, and you say it's stupid, but there is a reason that they focus on it is because it seems to sell, unfortunately, in their marketplaces.
Yeah,
Does that
that's
make
true.
sense?
Well,
I
I guess
mean,
that's why
like,
I'm not regretting it.
I get what you're saying, that there's a ton of more important things to talk about, and there's a ton more things, but I can't necessarily fault them for doing the only thing that works for them.
Well,
Um
address the speech though. They didn't really. Did you feel they
What do they
addressed?
have to though? That's not the point of this. Like, again,
I mean,
you're assuming that they're looking.
I mean, I know it's a direct response. Like it's supposed to be
Yeah,
your argument against the president's like years worth of work,
it's a
but
direct
also to
response.
be yes, exactly. To be effective, you want to counter the points that were made by Biden. I did
Oh,
not see them doing that effectively.
Yeah, I would
um,
agree with the half-baked takes on this one, and that like it's not like from a Republican perspective. Obviously, it's not gonna be my perspective, but from a Republican perspective, there's plenty of things to say, right? Plenty of Biden's failures to actually address, right? Like there's like a lot to work with. With a president as unpopular as Biden is right now, there's a whole lot to work with, and I feel like she didn't really hammer home on those. Like there was plenty of room here, and like it was just like platitudes, right? Like Biden's
Preach.
speech was filled with actual policy, right? And what
Yeah,
he wanted to accomplish, and like cheerleading the Democrats in Congress to get it done, right? Like all these things, and things that he could do himself in terms of executive orders, I believe, right? But she didn't tackle any of that, right? She like mentioned one thing. It was like inflation, right? Like he
yeah.
feels
For
like
a second. For
yeah,
a second.
yeah.
Why is that not like 2 to 3 minutes worth of fucking talking points from the GOP? Hammer him on the economy.
Yeah.
It's the
well,
number one issue in America right now, and they talked about it for fucking 20 seconds. It's
that's the thing,
ridiculous.
right? Like in the climate that we have because of Biden's unpopularity and because the generic Democratic ticket is the lowest I've seen in a long, long time. I think the Republicans are winning the generic ballot vote for a long for by what 6 points, 8 points, something like that. They don't need to put policies forth. All they feel they need. This is from their perspective. I don't know if this is true or not. I don't know if it's going to work or not. But from their perspective, all they need to do is not be a Democrat in this climate, and they think they can do it. Putting forth policies, putting forth ideas will it risks fumbling the ball. So in football, sometimes they just hold it. If they're ahead, they just hold the ball. They don't risk a play. They don't risk anything like that because it risks a fumble, it risks a turnover, and
Totally get what you're saying. You're saying
yeah,
like
yeah.
they're in a great position right now. Don't go and, risk it by putting a bunch of policy out there. I agree with you. The problem is like they didn't even they you just have to like point shit out, like point out the flaws in the administration, and there are 1,000 flaws. How late were we to that, Prime? How late into that did we join, do you think?
Oh, not very long. It wasn't very long.
So we didn't miss much.
I very much doubt it, because like she did her whole. They always do the biography thing at the very beginning, right? And she did her whole like fucking biography. Like it's like not important.
I'll wait for your chat to tell us if like we missed anything, but I don't think I heard like them talk about supply chain issues once. I don't think I heard did they mention Afghanistan at all?
No, I do not believe she did.
I didn't mention all thing, but I disagree with you guys. I disagree with not putting out policy. Like I actually think this is the perfect time to do that. One, your policy is not gonna get fucking tested, right? Like I don't know how you could fumble the ball by just proposing things, proposing that we do this. If it's something that will, excite Republican voters, then do that.
You
right?
provide an alternative. You don't want to provide an alternative.
Basically, all they have is culture war talking points, right? And so the only thing they could put forward is like, yeah, I'm going to hurt the trans kids, right? I'm gonna hurt them real bad. That's what they got. What else do they have, right?
Yeah,
other than,
dude.
I mean, she gave the general point of that she was cutting taxes in her own state, and that Republicans are going to be cutting taxes everywhere, right? But like she put nothing forward. So remember, the State of the Union response, right, is the moment where they put forward, right, their next big thing, right, a rising star within the party. This happened for both sides. Is what they do, right? A rising star within the party. They put them forward, and like, how did she prove that like she's a dynamic individual, right? And an ideas woman, right? She gave us nothing. She gave us blandness. Like, what was the point of any of that? Go ahead.
You could have that was Amy Klobuchar with a fucking R next to her.
Yeah, right.
So, I get it. And from you and me and Happy Tanks here, Prime, I understand. But we're not her audience. Does that make sense? We're not the ones that she's trying to reach. Maybe you are.
Yeah. I know we're not her audience, but that doesn't matter. Her audience that doesn't mean her audience doesn't like policy. The idea of like, hey, this is what Republicans are going to do. I put them in office. This is the thing that I can expect. Like, that's universal.
I wholeheartedly disagree with you, buddy, because guess what? The fucking
we'll see if it works.
The people on the right, if she has an audience, right, that she's talking to, and she's trying to respond to what the Democrats have brought forward, she is not trying to, she's not trying to prove anything to the right, the people on her side. Obviously, those people know all the bullshit that Biden has done. And like, yeah, they agree with all the things she's about to spit out. She needs to provide a good argument for the people like me on the center right for why that, give me a good reason why I should make a change right now. Give me a good reason why the Republican Party is going to provide more success to it, more a better America than what the Democrats are putting forward. And by going to the right and just only talking about the shit that the right cares about, you aren't winning anybody over. You need to talk about the shit that like the middle cares about, and then like the center left cares about. Hammer those points home.
I understand that, but I think a lot of the people in the center, unfortunately, do care about cultural war issues. I think that's something that is true. Again, just from I'm not an expert in this, but from the limited data I show, based on how things are going and based on the coverage I see and based on the polling data I see, that the Republicans are winning independents for the first time in a long time. And that, again, whether this was a smart move by her or not, she obviously made the calculation, her and her handlers, and the other people she probably got with to make this speech. They obviously thought that it was a better play to simply speak blandness, to speak platitudes, and to just kind of hint at the
what is this massive flower on her? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, the shirt's crazy.
Massive
I love
fucking flower. Holy shit!
I love it. I
sorry.
am jealous of this shirt. I want this shirt. I want it. I think everyone should this should be our new uniform.
It's like
So
it's like a full half of her chest. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're
it's
talking
okay.
about Kim Reynolds. I was like, what
That
the
wasn't
fuck are we?
Kim Reynolds.
Or,
That's not Kim
or no,
Reynolds.
no, who were you talking about?
That was
What flower on her shirt?
Sanders. What's her face? Sanders. She was like she was part of Joe Biden's campaign. The women, African American women, Sanders. Anyway, it's Ray. I forget her full name, but she
So
just go ahead.
Oh yeah, just one more thing. Like the one thing that she did touch on that was not specific policy, but she did hammer home was the parents get to decide what their kids are taught in school, and that's been a huge win for
I
the
do think
Republicans.
I was literally about to say, Wick, I do think the one culture war aspect that I think is a benefit for parents right now probably is the make the Republican Party the party of parents. I don't know if any political party has ever really tried that, but if they can do that, which they did in Virginia, and that's a big reason why Glenn Youngkin ended up winning that governorship,
Yes. Mhm.
that may be effective. However, I just I don't know how well suited it is for the Republican Party to come out here and talk about anything other than the economy, to talk about anything other than how Joe Biden has handled. I would even say that it would have been more effective for them to talk about his handling of the pandemic. Like, we're just now like calling for masks to be, or for kids to be staying in school, and that school should remain open. That should have been a fucking talking point last year. Like, there's a lot of things that like we could have hammered home that just did not grasp from that speech.
Okay. I mean, different opinion,
The
but
economy is
okay.
just.
I
Wouldn't you
think
say
she
the
did
economy
what
is like
she
the
felt
number
she
one?
needed to do. No, I
Fair.
don't think the economy
Maybe
is the
she.
number one issue coming up in the midterms. I really don't. I think it's this schooling. It's
Really?
I could be wrong, but it's also with the Ukraine stuff and the sanctions that may change. You know what I mean? Because it's going to hit our economy too, unfortunately, because of the gas prices and
Yeah,
things.
but like
So it may change.
the inflation thing was a significant problem even before Ukraine. This only exacerbates it,
No,
correct?
I get that. I understand that, but they can push that home in other areas. But I think that what's driving a lot of, and again, I could be wrong here, but again, as you saw in Virginia, it wasn't inflation that drove people to the polls. It was opposing the policies, the schooling policies in Virginia that got
It was
Glenn
a
Youngkin.
mixture,
That's
but
what did it. That's what put
the
him over the
Virginia thing,
edge.
that's true. It put him over the edge, um, because Virginia was having like there were several like big scandals, and then like a lot of controversy with how the teachers unions and the government was handling the reopening of schools there under a Democratic
Yeah,
who was that? That was who did he
I forget
beat?
his name,
But
to be
yeah, the
honest.
guy that was either in a KKK outfit or in blackface back in his college years. That guy that said, I don't know which one of those is me." That guy, he fucked up so bad in Virginia that it became a really, really strong point for Glenn Youngkin to hit on. I just don't know. It's definitely not bigger on a nationwide level.
Hmm.
I would I would bet my
I
life
want to
that
focus
the economy right now
back in
is
the
the number one
the
issue to
speeches.
Americans.
So want to refocus there. So um, okay, so Republicans failed to put any sort of vision for it as to well, what they're going to do in the upcoming even few months, right? Their vision I mean, other than against the culture wars, I guess maybe that is their vision they put forward. That they're going to continue on with the culture war. That they are going to be. They're going to be the champion against what CRT, a phantom, right? That they're going to fund the police, even though that's what Biden said, right? That's another point from his speech.
Thank you, Biden.
Yeah.
Thank you, Biden. That was the best part of his fucking speech.
I disagree, but that's fine. Yeah, so like they're going to fund the police, sure, all right. Like I don't see going into the midterms. And look, something to just be real about these speeches, right? Like people don't pay super close attention to them, right? Which is why I had a disagreement. One of the reasons I had disagreement with Half Baked Takes in terms of like the construction of Biden's speech, right? Because no one fucking pays attention that closely. I think the construction was fine, but even if you thought it wasn't, like there are few people who, like, first of all, few people who watch the speeches in general, right? There's only a few million people who do, and then few people who then break it down like that. Like, oh, I guess, like, you know, he placed the points, his different points in an inefficient manner. Like no one cares, right? But still, like it's your vision, and in that terms, right? I think Biden's speech was much better. Obviously, it's much longer, so we have more time, but still much better because he actually was putting forth something, whether I agree with it or not, where I think it goes farther or not. Like I felt like he effectively put forward a vision.
Well, he's the party in power. He has to put forward a vision. And what me and I think Wick were saying is that, like, yeah, you don't, if you're the Republicans right now, you're better off just not like putting any like your own vision
no, you're not.
out there.
No, you're not.
You're in position.
No, you're not.
In position to win. You're in position to take back the House.
Yeah, and you do that by actually saying, like, what are you going to do when you take back the House? Like, what are you going to do if you want to? Because
so what they're saying they're going to do, they do have a plan. They want to oppose Democrats and oppose the liberals and oppose the progressives.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it. But that sells in very many spaces. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get that, and I agree with you. But like I'm saying, policy. I don't know why you guys are so policy adverse, right? I'm not. It's just no, you are. You're saying no, I'm not policy adverse. Hold on. Oh my God, you don't have to talk over me. You're saying that like that the policy that these people are proposing. Or that could be proposed will somehow hurt them. Well, who will that hurt them with, right? You can put forward a policy to rally your base, right? Like you aren't going to get Democrats, right? Democrats aren't going to vote for you, okay, right? So you don't have to worry about what they have to fucking say, right? At most, like you can expand yourself to the center, right? So you can say some, you know, bland, conservative, liberal-ish bullshit, right? And then present that to it's like this is something we're going to do. This is something both, right? Like there's a problem, right? There's a problem here, like in terms of drug prices, right? That could be a problem. Oh well, we have a better way of doing that, right? We have a better way of dealing with that. And it literally doesn't have to be anything that you have to actually do, right? You could just propose things that sound good. Right? So it could be drug prices. Or if you're talking about funding the police, well, what does that look like? What's your vision for policing, right? Like, here's a bill I would put, like, or we would put, like, and make up some ridiculous number, like $300 billion into the police departments, right? Like, how would that hurt them? Like, just that. I put a number. Yeah, I care about the police so much, right? I bleed Blue Lives Matters, right? Like, I'm gonna put, or we're gonna put $300 billion into police. Like, why not? Explain.
So a large portion of the Republican base does not like government being involved in anything at all. And so again, that's part of the thing they're saying is they're going to limit government involvement, and putting forth policies such as that can perhaps have a chilling effect on their base. I'm not saying it is. Again, I'm not an expert here, but they have obviously made the decision.
Ridiculous. I get to what they made the decision. Obviously, you don't have to explain to me that they made the decision. Obviously, they made the decision. We just heard the speech, obviously, right? Yes. But like, you could even say something as like, okay, here's something we'll stop the Democrats from doing. Putting judges on the bench, right? They're putting too many of these liberal judges. Like that actually like dovetails well with the point they made on crime, right? That the one point they made on crime is that, you know, we'll fund the police, and then the liberal prosecutors that are there letting being soft on criminals or what the fuck, right? You could dovetail that. Okay. we are going to stop liberal judges to be on coming on the bench, right? We're going to save the judiciary, right? So we can get common sense judges on there when we have a Republican president, right? And hopefully very soon. You could say something like that, right? That's something that you'll proactively do.
No, really quick, Prime, because I got to hop off and study after this. So
just go ahead.
I agree with you that the Republicans would benefit from putting forth policy. However, there's a time and a place for it, and after this, no, I know, but you don't got a lot of time when you're talking about the response to the State of the Union. The State of the Union is
so you had bullshit, dude. But she had time to say nothing. Okay. She had time to say nothing. So if she also had time to say something,
exactly. And Prime, I'm telling you, instead of saying nothing, which is what she did, she should have been pointing out the obvious, clear problems with the Biden administration and driving those home to a gross effect. Like, you have to do it so everybody understands that's on the left of the person talking, of Kim Gardner. She is not talking to the right, like the base. She is talking to the center and the Democrats that could possibly vote for a Republican if they think Joe Biden isn't doing a good job. That is who they're talking to. I'm sorry. I hope that you end up inviting me to Reverie next week, and hopefully this is a topic, because I do want to continue our discussion.
Okay. Thank you for being here, Happy. Takes much appreciated.
Appreciate it, brother. Talk to you soon.
Yep. We got a new person.